Well, delighted to be back on Radio Row, and this was a nice little surprise. He just came over to us and offered to have a chat. It's a beautiful thing.
Told you I'd be back.
I love it. I love it.
It's our yearly reunion right before the Super Bowl.
Beautiful. Multiple-time Super Bowl champion and son of not just one but two players in the son, father of, what did I just say? This is clearly the worst start to an interview I've done all week. Father of both Christian and Luke McCaffrey as well in the NFL. The brilliant Ed McCaffrey is with us. Ed, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing great. I forgot I had this. You mentioned Super Bowls. I forgot all about it. But you want to try a ring on?
Of course I want to try a ring on.
How
many of them do you have with you?
I only brought one.
Which one out of interest?
I hope I have it here. That would really be upsetting if I didn't have it. There it goes. So I got 4 rings.
Yeah.
Not 3. I played on 3 teams, but I got a 4th one as a member of the media. Did you know you could do that?
Yeah, it's so fun. You know, MJD, the former Jaguars. So it's your 50. I tried on Ryan Harris's one of these a couple of years ago.
Although you have some mitts, I don't know if it'll fit.
It's a beautiful ring. I'm going to put it on my little finger.
There you go.
There it'll go.
Look at that.
Look at that, boys.
Just a little thing.
That's Super Bowl 50 ring.
They get bigger and bigger every year. So it went from Super Bowl 29, 32, 33, and then I got one as a member of the radio broadcast team for the Denver Broncos. After Super Bowl 50, John Elway got me my 4th ring. Thank you, John. He was the GM of the team. But it's the biggest one, so I'll wear it around. Plus, it's not one that I earned as a player, so if I did lose it, I could probably replace it. But I hope I don't. I'm going to have to get that back from you.
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. You're not going to lose it here. Your final hit of the week before you head to the airport. I promise we're not going to steal your Super Bowl ring. That's amazing. Thank you. We've actually got the little Super Bowl 50 paperweight on the on the desk as well, so it all ties in lovely. Look, actually, that's a good place to start, Ed, because what really stands out about Super Bowl 50 is the going out on top nature, right? Peyton Manning wins the Super Bowl, rides off into the sunset. So I sometimes think because of Peyton Manning, people forget on the other side of the ball there was a pretty good Hall of Famer in DeMarcus Ware who also rode off into the sunset after winning a Super Bowl. There's some talk about this weekend. Could Travis Kelce, as a particular example, go, right, done the three-peat, body's clearly not what it was, I'm just going to go and enjoy my life now. Firstly, how great is it when a player gets to go out on top like that after winning a Super Bowl?
It's incredible. I mean, John Elway, right?
Yeah, that's another great one.
John Elway, when I got to the Denver Broncos, he was already a living legend. He was already a Hall of Famer, but he hadn't won the big one. And, was he going to have to go through the rest of his life as the guy that couldn't win the big one? And it wasn't that he couldn't, it's just teams win Super Bowls, not players. So as great as he was, he hadn't won one. And after Super Bowl 32, which was my favorite of all the Super Bowls, I got to line up in the victory formation. So I'm in the backfield behind the quarterback. The clock's ticking. I just want to make sure a D lineman doesn't slap the ball and I have to scramble and fall on it, right? Because that's why I'm back there. It seems routine, but it could happen, right? There's a chance. And I'm back there. I'm looking at John, looking at the clock, looking at John, looking at the clock. And the pixelation of the numbers was just going this slow. Like that moment's frozen in time. It took so long for them to snap the ball. But when he took a knee and turned around, he had every emotion known to mankind on his face. That was his first Super Bowl. You could see it was like a lifetime of work, a lifetime of fulfillment. And he was crying, he's laughing. I wanted to pick him up, but I had a knee injury, and I'm like, if I drop John Elway after Super Bowl 32, it's going to be ugly. But we celebrated, we dapped up, and that was his first Super Bowl championship ever. It was the first Super Bowl championship in the history of the Denver Broncos, and that's special, right? Fans, granddads had gone with kids to games. Some of them weren't even still alive anymore to experience it, but they have memories and pictures, and it's so important to the fan base, so important to the city, so important to John and all the players, and that's why Pat Bolin, may he rest in peace, said this one's for John. It was for everybody, but John had worked so hard and for so long and did so many great things for the Denver Broncos that everybody knew this was more than just a moment. This was a historic moment in the history of the entire program.
I absolutely love that. And look, from your perspective, just looking at that team now before we talk more about this game, how much are you a Bo lever? How impressed have you been with this year of year 2 of Sean Payton? I have to say, we always knew it was going to be a project. I think I did not expect them to be a playoff-worthy team in year 2.
Oh, I did. I thought they had a chance to make the playoffs for sure. Now, I know it came down to the last game and they beat Kansas City, who rested all their starters, but how appropriate. Beat the team that's been in the last, 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls and owned your division to get into the Super Bowl. The last playoff game they played in was Super Bowl 50. That was a long 2015. Peyton Manning, who rode off into the sunset, they hadn't even been to a playoff game until this year. But I didn't watch a lot of Bo in college, but I watched a lot of him after college when he was trying out. My son Luke played with him at the Senior Bowl. I got to watch him throw the ball around, and I also got to hear from Luke, who said, hey, this guy's the real deal. He throws the ball really well, but also he's a leader in the huddle. You know, these are little things you can figure out about people before the draft, because in those all-star games, you know, the coach is from a different team. He'll give you like a long, drawn-out play, like red, right, Z motion, 24 bingo pick. I mean, just long lists of plays, and sometimes it's hard for quarterbacks who are used to one-word plays, like shock. That's the play, and you just memorize it. To hear the play call and relay it to the players in a efficient way. And Luke said he didn't miss a beat. He called every play perfectly. He got people lined up. He even talked back a little bit to the coordinator, because there wasn't a clock that cut them off in the Senior Bowl, whereas in a real NFL football game, the coach can't talk to you right up till you snap the ball. So he's like, I got it. Don't worry. I got to call the play. So he said he showed great leadership. So I think you got a very mature quarterback. He had a lot of college experience. He's not like your normal rookie. Played a lot of games. He came in there. He ran the offense that Coach Sean Payton wanted him to run, and he ran it the way he wanted to run it. And I think old school coaches like Sean Payton, they really want you to run the play the way they drew it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that.
And not all quarterbacks do.
No.
And it's okay if your play caller gives you that autonomy. If he builds in autonomy or decision making, for instance, Patrick Mahomes. Like Andy Reid's a brilliant play designer and play caller. There's some plays where Patrick Mahomes makes it his own. He deviates from the script. Well, when you have Patrick Mahomes, maybe you build that into what you're doing. But I know Sean Payton, especially early in his coaching career in Denver, wanted the quarterback to do what he asked him to do. He didn't want him to take sacks. That was a big issue the year before. And he was one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league, which means you're not off track and you can keep play calling the way you want to down the field. So I think he can throw.
Rhythm and timing, baby.
He has rhythm. He has timing. He's going where, if Coach Payton, who was a former quarterback, right, he's thinking like a quarterback and a coach. I want you to go with the ball where I would go with it. Right? He did that for him. And so I was really happy they made it to the playoffs, and I think they have a bright future with Bo Nix at quarterback.
Yeah, anticipation's the other thing that caught my eye about him. Those are the things that it's very difficult to teach, but when you're in that kind of Sean Payton system and you've got that structure, it can only just increase that. It can only just improve that ability. So that's wonderful. You mentioned Luke there. We got a chance to speak to Luke ahead of the divisional round. What a nice kid. Like, what a lovely guy. And I have to say, like, it caught me slightly off guard, as we explained last year, with the radio broadcast partner of the 49ers. So we've had Christian on a couple of times, and Christian's always great, but he's a very business guy. He's very straight-laced. Luke comes across as much more of a, like, very different personality. And I was like, it's really interesting that, you know, we know you a little bit, and we know Lisa a little bit, and it's like, they're very, very different guys, but I think both seem just absolutely great.
Well, thank you. As a dad, that means a lot, so I appreciate hearing that. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know, right? I'm not in those interviews or around him when he's with his team. But, yeah, I agree. He's a great kid, and all four of my boys have different personalities. And it's funny. You're like this DNA roulette goes on, and then you're part mom, part dad, part relatives, and everyone comes out differently with different personalities. The one thing they have in common is their work ethic, and Luke is every bit as serious about football as Christian is. But he is very gregarious. He's very social. He likes talking. He likes
gregarious is a great word for it.
Meeting new people, and he had a really fun year. What a great year! He teamed up with Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels. What a home run they hit at quarterback. And the receiver room was really cool. As a dad and as a former player, that was important to me. Like, what are the other guys like? From Terry McLaurin on down, he had a really good receivers room. And that's important. You're in the room with those guys every day. If you don't get along, it makes for a long season. But that was a great group of guys. And Bobby Ingram is the wide receivers coach. He played when I played. And just a great group of people. And again, it starts with people. I think it starts at the top with ownership and Josh Harris making good decisions for the team. And then your head coach, Dan Quinn, who he hires and who he coaches as his coordinators, right on down the line to your players. But that missing piece is the quarterback. If you don't have the quarterback, it's tough to win in this league. And, man, they struck gold.
Oh, didn't they just? With Christian, with the 49ers, obviously he had all his health issues this year. But we're expecting a bounce back next year, right? Give me some hope here, Ed.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm really confident. If they just get the players that were hurt back, they're going to make another run at it. Right? People forget, Christian didn't play most of the season. It was such a frustrating, miserable season because he had such high expectations. They wanted to bounce back from losing a Super Bowl to winning a Super Bowl, and it just wasn't in the cards. Some years are like that. What are you going to do?
Well, what are you going to do? That team over the last 13 or 14 years, they either make the NFC Championship game or they finish fourth in the NFC West. That has been the only two results that have happened to that team.
And I know they went to the NFC Championship game 2 years ago,
NFC
right?
Championship game and beyond, obviously,
right.
I mean.
They went to the NFC Championship game, and Brock Purdy got hurt on the 4th play of the game. I thought that was their year. I thought that was the year. I've never seen a game in my life, especially a championship game, involve a team that didn't have a quarterback. All their quarterbacks went down. Christian and Kyle Juszczyk were going to have to play quarterback. Have you ever seen that in a championship game?
No.
You don't have a quarterback. And I thought that was going to be the year, and unfortunately it wasn't. But what do? They bounce back. They go and beat the Philadelphia Eagles Week 13. They win the NFC Championship. They get to the Super Bowl, and I was sure they were going to win it. And I think in a different universe they would have, but they didn't. So then, for 2 years, they had the shortest off seasons in the planet, and they played football at the highest level without actually winning a Super Bowl. And then it caught up with them, and a bunch of guys started getting hurt. In that Super Bowl, by the way, it kind of started in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. If you remember Dre Greenlaw. To me, it doesn't get talked about enough, and I'm hoping they re-sign him. Please, John Lynch, please re-sign
We had
Dre.
Fred Warner sat there the other day basically making the same plead.
He's like, I don't know how to... He's like the Mike Tyson of the defense. You know what I mean? Like, he's the guy. He's the enforcer.
You had the enforcer, then you had Robert Saleh back on the sideline. Like, that defense gets tougher in an instant.
And if you watch the Super Bowl, he was laying the hat on some people. And right, he was having a great game, and then he's out of the game. And that was where it started. Okay, now how does that happen? No one hit it. He just was bouncing around. It's just unlucky. Like, there is an element of luck. I don't care what anyone says. Luck does play a part. The ball bounces your way, it doesn't. You get an injury, you don't get an injury. You get a call, you don't get a call. Luck plays a part. It's not everything, but it plays a part. And they just had some bad luck in that game, and they didn't execute when they needed to. They have to be accountable as well. There's some plays in the game where they didn't execute, but they had as good of a team as there was on the planet, and they didn't win the big game. So we thought they would do it this past year. I don't have the numbers, but they were missing starters in all 3 phases for most of the season. Trent missed a bunch of games. Debo missed some games. Christian missed a whole bunch of games. Hufunga didn't play till about halfway through the season. Dre didn't play basically the whole year. You're talking about all pros. You're missing 6, 7, 8 all pros, and so no
Brandon
wonder
as well.
Brandon was out like almost the whole season, right? He played the first few games, and he was their outside the numbers receiver. So the list goes on and on. I'm forgetting people, right? They missed so many star players. The good thing was they found some young guys that can play. They got experience. So when the guys get healthy, and they also have those young guys with experience, they should be better. I'm also hearing rumors around here they might sign other players like Myles Garrett, or we got Trey Hendrickson. There's some other.
Don't put that in my head either. I can't handle that.
There's some other good players, right? They're going to sign a couple of free agents, and they're going to have a draft. And I got to give credit to John Lynch. He is scouting his tail off right now, trying to bring some more talent into the team. The average team rotates about 60% of the roster per year in the NFL. Right, that's a lot of players. So half of your team's different. Say 50. Half your team's going to be different. So getting those guys for depth and potentially as all-stars is going to be very important.
Ed McCaffrey, you've got a flight to catch.
Yes.
We could sit here and chat for hours. Check out the McCaffrey protein bites, by the way. We'll get that plug in because they look excellent, and I'm going to be having some now to try and get me going for the day.
McCaffreybrands.com. I promise you they're the most delicious, healthy snack you'll ever eat. And please try them afterwards. You won't have to say it on the show. I don't want to do a live taste test in case you chew it wrong and start choking on air. But they are absolutely delicious. But I'm going to follow up with you, and you got to let me know what you think.
I will do so. Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you.